so I currently have speed on camera 1 and 2. And I'm still having the same issue there. Don't touch it. Okay, good. All right, let's go for some audio checks. Kendee, so you drove here today. How'd you get here? Uber, something?
My Uber wasn't working, so I had to use a taxi, and I called a yellow cab, and he was creepy. Oh my gosh, I heard I was invited to do this, and I was like, I need comfort food, and my body can't cough anymore, so it needs to grab some carbs. So I did meatballs. I did meatballs and spaghetti and like a pizza, and I was like, put the pesto on there, extra, buddy.
Did you have garlic bread?
No, I wasn't gonna go that far. There is some. If you want some, you can totally have some.
I do.
Okay, guys. So look at, can you look at 2? Camera 2 up here. Good, that's great. All right, well, I'm clear. Tell me when you're ready over here in audio.
Where's the audio volume? Let's do this.
Dial on the side. Go ahead and keep talking, Kendee. Talk.
So yesterday I went to the restaurant that I used to work at for like the last 4 months. I put so much hard work into that place. And I walked in and they said, sorry, you can't be in here. I said, excuse me? I was like, I have never been denied entry into any establishment in my life. This is absurd. I'm like, and I even pulled the, do you know who I am? And I'm like, of course you do, but still let me in. Come on. Like, this is ridiculous.
Wow.
They said, bye. It's good seeing you. I'm like, I have some words for you, mister. I'm going to hold off.
Okay, ready, guys? Okay. Sound speed, go ahead.
Sound speed.
Okay, let's go ahead and mark it.
After eating docuseries, Kendee, take 1.
Okay. Good. And I think we're ready, sir, when you are.
So first off, before the questioning even starts, for everybody that's watching this, whenever you hear any of the stuff from any of us that came from this life, know that we're somebody's daughter. We're somebody's granddaughter. We've probably fallen in love. We've walked parks. We've maybe fished. We've gone shopping for the love of shopping and played with our makeup. And some of us came from a happy home. Some of us came from the worst homes ever. But there was always a light. There was always somebody there that was a light. And that's what you need to know before you hear any of this from any of us. Because we have to stand strong together. Just know me walking into the dark corners and the crevices of the earth, into those disgusting places. It was for my sister. It was because I thought I could be a bigger light than those dark places and being a light in those dark places. But I could help people, even on my own, and I'm okay with that. Thanks.
Okay, this is your time. And that I believe divinely it is your time. We'll talk about that later. Kendee, tell us your name and your last name.
My name's Kendee Long. It's Kendee. My dad's Kenneth. My mom's Wendy. And Long, like short, but I'm long, whatever.
Kendee, we're going to just, a couple of things I want to know about you first. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food? My favorite food, I like crab legs and crawfish. Definitely. It's my favorite food.
Where were you raised?
I was raised in Argyle, Texas. Well, elementary school, it was North Richland Hills and then Argyle. North Texas, for sure.
If I say, I'm going to say a couple things and you just pick one, okay?
Uh-huh.
Forest or ocean?
Ocean. That's a hard one, though.
A drama or a comedy?
A drama.
Hot coffee or cold brew?
Cold brew.
A book or a movie?
A movie.
Summer or winter?
Winter.
A group or a one-on-one friend visit?
One-on-one. Definitely.
Love for travel or more homebody?
Homebody. When I have one that I'm comfortable with.
Art or science?
Ooh. Science.
Okay. Tell me about your first job.
My first job. I was 11 years old and I worked at a baseball concession stand. I begged my parents for weeks to sign off on that paperwork because, of course, it was against child labor laws. So there's a little paperwork that you have to sign off. And I looked at my dad and I said, "You always want us to work hard, so why don't you just let me work hard outside of the home? I don't like doing all the house stuff. I'll work somewhere." And it sold him. So I did little cash register stuff and sold hot dogs. And
Tell me about your relationship with your dad.
my relationship with my dad, I only have happy moments with my dad. Up until recently when the truth kind of spit out like a bad Van Gogh painting. Just all over the walls. And my dad worked so hard. And he was there through the things that we had. That's how he was there. Through the food on the table, to taking us to the metal shop so he could weigh it, so we could have money for the state fair. The deer hunting and the fishing and the piggyback rides.
Your mom?
My mom, my mom and I just recently started having a beautiful relationship since my parents got divorced after 33 years of marriage because my dad's addicted to opiates. Opiates. English. It's hard. So that just happened in January. But my mom finally saw that the way I do life isn't so bad. It's just I do life for me and to positively affect other people and my experiences that I've gone through. And I don't have limitations. The only one that can put them on me is me. And she finally saw that as a strength rather than, oh, you just have Peter Pan syndrome. You're just the big dreamer. And, you know, I remember her telling me, if you go to California and run off, you're just going to be found in a ditch. That was a crazy moment. Just because it wasn't something that would sound like came from my family or a family I wanted. But it made me stronger. My mom's hardness and toughness of not liking women, which was one of my generational curses, was having a problem with women. My mom wanted 5 boys. She got 4 girls. God's funny. God's really funny. My dad was like, well, you guys can try again. We can try again. No, we'll just get another girl, my mom said. So she had a problem with women a lot because of the jealousy of my dad always being a cheater in some way or another. And so growing up, we just it was like there was some jealousy, and then I was, eating too much, or my hair was always messy, or my makeup wasn't done right, or, but she would always tell me the moments I was really dressed up. Oh, you look pretty. Oh, those were good moments, man. I remember, my mom, she finally started listening to me on my 28th birthday, that when I see her, I just want her to run up and hug me. That's been cool. That's been the coolest thing ever. Because I used to be like, I feel like you don't even miss me after church camp. Like, I've been gone a week. Like, and it was because my dad was my mom's first child. I come from an addict and enabler family, and that's another part of my generational curse that I fight. And so it's not my mom's fault. She just had to be strong in the man's side and the woman's side of a family. So she was just tough. My dad got to seem like the laid-back, cool one, and he's a narcissistic alcoholic and drug addict. And that's okay, whatever. To each their own, you know? And, you know, we all go through our journeys. This is how I feel and see it. And with my dad, it'll either get better or it'll kill him. And that's that. It's hard for me to love him, and it's easier for me to love my mom, and that's really amazingly weird for me now, because it's like it flip-flopped.
Tell me about a memory, one memory, recently, where you feel like, or you felt like, you were really you. Anything. A memory where you felt, man, this is me.
And one memory? Man, I have to say it's every day. I've already come to that fact. May 24, 2013, I had a near-death car accident and went to a couple specialists, and they told me, you know, you died, like you went through the whole experience. Not everybody gets to come back. And after that, and seeing me in this neck brace, and I'm purple and green and blue, I went through this whole thing of like putting mirrors on the walls and underneath me, and I'd be totally naked. And for every bad thing I said to myself, I had to say 3 good things. And I did that for 21 days. And I have never looked at my body since in a different way other than perfectly imperfect.
How about your sister?
Oh, my baby sister. Oh, my God. I love that girl. She is the strongest girl I've ever met in my life. She's crazy and witty, and she can make anything funny. She's blonde. We're the blondes, and we're both the Ks. There's 4 of us, and we're CK. So the 2 Cs are the brunettes and the brown eyes, and the Ks, I'm blonde, blue-eyed, and she's blonde, green-eyed. So we were always on each other's team. And I was always kind of the weakest one with comebacks or like wanting to fight back. So it was my baby sister that always fought back for me. Except for when she was little. I got to do that. But as we got older, she was way better at it than I was. She's smart. She's always known what she wanted to do. She said it as a little girl. You know, I'll be a dancer. That girl was walking around booty dancing at like 6 years old. Like, she was like, I'm going to be a dancer in college. Like, that's how I'm going to get through college. And we're like, we already have like 6 years paid for. What are you talking about? But she was dead set on it. And I envy that in her. She's always known she wanted to be a mommy. She always knew that she was going to be a dancer. She always knew so many things. And then you saw whenever I'm sorry, I'll go off onto something else. So she's a phenomenal woman now, and she's awesome. I spent 10 years in the same bed with her every night, and we scratched each other's back. Like,
Can you move the pillow behind her back just a little bit?
we can take this thing out. Actually, yeah.
You don't need it, that's fine.
Help me learn a little bit.
You just on the back side of the side. The other side.
Trent.
Great, you got it.
We're talking about child sex trafficking. You talk to me about, I'm going to say one word.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just like to hear your thoughts about this word.
Okay.
abuse?
I think it happens to everybody in some shape or form. It's just more drastic than the other.
Has that happened to you?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Do you mind sharing?
Yeah. I don't mind. So the first time I was ever physically abused by my older sister, my parents whooped her so bad. It wasn't just like a sibling fight to another fight. Like, my parents left for a date, and my older sister walks up to me and says, "I just can't stand you. I hate you." And she just hauls off and hits me so hard in the face, I couldn't breathe. And I told Kelby, I said, "Kelby, run." I said, "Go hide." You could just hear her, "She's not going to do anything to me." But she ran anyways, and she got the phone off the wall. And you can just see the wire running into the closet. She's thinking she's not going to be found. My parents walk into the house, and they said Chrisette was so scared, you could just see it in her eyes. And yeah, I mean, I was saved from it in that sense. And then it just kind of, being as naive as I was, and I mean, I didn't care to get into trouble or like do anything bad as a kid. I just kind of wanted to do anything that would help, make my mom proud. I wanted to do anything and everything. I was always the one with the learning disabilities and had the problems with school and all that stuff. So I always seemed like I was just a lot of trouble. And college happened, and then you find that college sweetheart. And it was the first time I saw weed. I was 19 years old. It's the first time I saw coke. It's the first time I really saw any sort of drugs was in that relationship. And he told me all this other stuff, and it just ended up in this really mentally and verbally abusive relationship for 5 years running. And, I was only allowed to have family time for 2 hours. I was only allowed to have friend time for 1 hour going out. I was only allowed to have $20 from one paycheck out of the 3 jobs I worked a week. I wasn't really allowed to leave the house. I was told what to wear, when to wear it, or I was just hated on for it. Why can't you be like this girl, or why don't you look like this? And it was my mom, and I remember my parents, my sisters too, being like, "Why do you let him do this to you?" I'm like, "This is love, right? Like, this is just what it is. Like, the guy controls everything." We broke up for a little while no, he didn't, not during that time. So I went to aesthetic school. And while I went to aesthetic school, I was working a graveyard job at Whataburger. And I was called What a Butt. And so that was kind of like my nickname running. And everybody loved to see me on Wednesdays because it was rock and rodeo hip hop night. And kind of the same people would walk in. And I was leaving my shift one morning, and this guy, 6'7", 6'6", 6'7" tall black guy, runs up to my car, and he was like, "Hey, I'll give you $100. I'll give you $100 if you can help me out and take me home." I'm like, "How far do you live? I have school in like 3-4 hours. Like, I need at least an hour of sleep, 2 hours of sleep." And he was like, "I only live 30 minutes down the road." And I'm like, "Okay, that's not a problem. Sure, jump on in." And he takes me to 20, 30 minutes down the road. He takes me to like this, all these new houses that were built. I was just like, there's no way anyone lives here. Like, and I'm just trying to keep calm. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. God, you're with me. I know you're with me. Everything's going to be fine. He's just going to get out of his car and go to his house. He pulls me over to the side of the, like I pull over to the side of the road he tells me to, so he can run across the street. And he takes out his knife. Says, "Hey, baby girl, all you have to do is take off your shirt." And I remember looking over and being like, "What? This is not a part of the car ride." Like, "Sorry, sir." And he was like, no, for real. He's like, "You think I'm kidding? Just try screaming. See what happens. It'll be your last time." And I just started praying. And he starts screaming and telling me to stop praying. And so I put my hand over my mouth so I can stop crying, so I can get out something that'll come out, like anything that'll come out and save me. I'm just thinking, what can I say that he'll let me out of this car right now? And he takes out his member, starts stroking himself. And he goes, "I know that you'll enjoy this. I know you'll enjoy this. And you won't want anybody else ever again." And I just start praying harder and harder. And I'm like, "Why don't we just drive around? We can just drive around and figure out something else." And it worked eventually after like 3.5 hours. It was so crazy. 3.5 hours of praying and pleading. And I just said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you from my car. In the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you from my car. In the name of Jesus Christ, I rebuke you from my car." And I looked over it, and it was like something not only like pushed him out, but pulled him out of my car. He just sprinted across this field of nothing. And he just said, "You crazy bee. And I'm not doing this." He throws $60 in my car. I get to work the next day, and the security guard says, "Do you know who you got in the car with? I sent out 6 cop cars last night to try to go and find you in your car. And I had one sitting outside of your mom's house." I said, "No, I don't even know his name. I want to forget that night. I don't want to see another black male for the rest of my life if I could. And I know I'm going to have to get over that. But that's how I'm feeling right now." And he was like, "You got into the car with somebody who's on parole for human trafficking and prostitution." He said he's done that before to girls, and they've usually never been seen again. So whoever is up there, he said, they're for you. You kind of need to do something with your life. Not Whataburger. So,
your view. We ask people what they think of sex work. And I throw a bunch of things into that category. Prostitution, trafficking, strip clubs.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any encounters with this? Have you had any exposure? Do you have a point of view?
Yeah, definitely. I think social media is to really blame for the fact that they really lift up strippers and that lifestyle. And my baby, Kelby, is actually the one who kind of got me into, and I meant to never say her name, but I guess it's out there and she'll forgive me and I don't care.
I can edit it out. I'll take it out.
So.
Speak freely and you'll tell me what you like and don't, and I'll take it out.
Okay.
You just go.
So she got me into dancing. She had asked me for like 3 years, "Come dance with me. We'd be great. Come dance with me. I'll let you name us. I know you're really good at that kind of stuff." And I'm like, "You'll never see me on stage, ever. No way." And let's flash forward to 2016, October 2016. And I was like, why not dance for a while? Why not dance for a while and get the money I want for the art institute that I want to go to? and to the makeup school that I want to go to and just get out and never look back. So that was the plan. And I was rooming with my best friend in Denton, and I got to Baby Dolls Fort Worth. Oh, I've been so ready to say that name out loud. So ready. Because that place honestly needs to burn. It needs to burn for everything that it is. Baby Dolls Fort Worth is literally a little piece of hell on earth. Like, and it's so set up so perfectly, I can literally walk in there and tell you who is with who and what is what and what people are doing and how it's going down and why the manager's walking out. Like, it's literally a whole system entirely in play. It's like walking into a movie set. It's insane, except for it's a set for pimps and it's a setup for managers being paid off. It's a setup for the entire prostitution going down in Fort Worth, in little piece of Useless, Texas, right by Useless, Texas. I hate that place so much. Anyways, I'm so sorry. I'm so passionate about it. It drives me nuts. But that is where it all went down. That is where my world blew up, and that is where it all happened. I was walking into that place, and I was supposed to go to Baby Dolls Dallas. And somehow I got the addresses mixed up and walked in there, got a job, was accepted right off the bat. And February 2017, my baby sister calls me. She says, "Hey, what are our names? I'm going to come dance with you." And I said, "You're Monroe. I'm Marilyn, and we're the Monroe sisters." And we killed it. We killed it for 2 weeks. And it was just one Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday, she was walking around, and, there's a good-looking black guy that comes in on the same days at the same times for his same girls that are running game. Running game as in the crowd of who they can wait for to buy them off so they can go home with them. And she's creeping up on him, thinking that he's just some regular customer because I didn't tell her yet. And I'm like, how can I get her away from him? Oh, the house mom, the older woman in the back that takes care of all the girls. I said, "Kelby, the house mom needs you, baby." Or, "Monroe, the house mom needs you. You want to come over here? She has something to tell you." "Oh, yeah. Excuse me a moment." I take her aside. "So that's a pimp. And you need to take your L's for the day because all that's out there right now are pimps." I said, "That's his girl and his girl. And that guy's girl is that guy, that girl, and that girl." She goes, "Really?" I was like, "Yes." She goes, "He was so darn cute." And I was like, "Usually they are. It's because you like how he's dressed. You like the Rolex on his watch. You like the Michael Kors on his shoes and the red bottoms he's wearing. I mean, the Michael Kors, the Louis Vuitton, whatever we're going to say, the red bottoms." I said it already. "You just like the clothes that he's wearing." I said, "I totally get it." I said, "That should kind of put you two and two that he has money to spend." I said, "But do you realize he's holding a handful of cash and he's not doing anything with it?" "Yeah." I said, "That's a pimp, babe. You just leave him alone and you get to walk out with your freedom. That's what you get to walk out with. And it's worth a lot more." She said, okay. The house mom calls me out after she hears pimp in front of all of the girls. I'm standing there in front of two of his girls. I'm not knowing what's about to happen to me. And I just put that house mom in check because you can't really, once all the girls are on board with him or them, there's nobody you can really talk to. You keep to yourself and you be your own team. Or you get put in with the folks. You end up with folks is what they call it. Somebody asked me that. I said, "Yeah, I got a mom and a dad and an aunt, grandpa." No. They're like, "Oh, so you don't have folks. That's your family. It's your stripper club family." Or, wherever you're pulling game. So It gets found out that I know what he is. And then like a week later, it's a really great night. I just made a ton of cash. I know my baby sister just made a ton of cash. And I can feel something wrong. Like I just knew something was wrong. And so I got up and I said, hey guys, have you guys seen Monroe? Has anyone seen Monroe? No, we're not her babysitter. Yeah, she just left like 30 minutes ago with Iman. Her real name's Helena. I said, no. Why would you let her leave with that girl? Well, what's wrong with her? She's like the head girl to Donnie. Donnie's in here every Tuesday and Thursday, Saturday during the day and Sunday during the day. Are you guys not getting this yet? Like, come on. And I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off all night trying to look for her, trying to figure out where she goes, calling her phone. She's not answering her phone. I've called it like 100 times. And I get home and I get the phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning that she's being put through a rape kit because she tried to help Helena get away from her pimp by taking her and driving her off to Waco. Helena calls her pimp, calls Donnie, and says, hey, I have a problem. This girl's trying to take me away. I can't get her with us. I can't get her on our team. So there's a problem. So Helena keeps Kelby cornered. And they beat her so badly, they broke her eye bone. And they vaginally and anally rape her. And they take everything. And they throw her naked body by a garbage dumpster at an apartment building. And somebody finds her at 6 o'clock in the morning, just naked, lying there, unconscious, not knowing if she's dead. And thankfully, somebody found her. And I went through a lot of blaming myself, but the one thing I had in mind was I was going to stay at that club, and I was going to find him. But Baby Dolls Fort Worth they have their crew, like their clan. They're all kind of tied together, and it's disgusting. So disgusting. I stayed there for a week. My mom and dad begged me not to go back. My parents actually walked in to see if I was actually a cocktail waitress while I'm half naked walking around in heels. That was embarrassing. But to kind of break it from there, but I didn't want to listen to him. I had to find him. I wanted him so badly. I wanted to be able to call the police. I wanted to be able to see Helena. I wanted to be able to take her out in any way I could and happily go to jail for it. I didn't even care. And I was so ready. And a week later, they send somebody in for me. I can tell he's there for me. He keeps looking at me. And I wink at him and kind of do my thing. And I call him over and I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you a lap dance next. That's what's going to happen. And so I get off stage and we get to the corner and I sit on his lap and he hugs me so tight. And this was after maybe an hour of talking to him, whatever. And he hugs me so tight. I can feel my ribs squeezing together. And I'm like, he's about to break my ribs. And he puts his head in my shoulder and he says, I'm a really bad guy. I said, we're not bad people. I said, we're just good people who make bad choices. He says, no, you don't get it. Do you even know what I do for a living? I said, you're my hitman. You know, I know what Donnie looks like and I can turn him in. And he looks at me and he is just in shock. And he says, how do you know? He picks me up and stands me up. He gives me $100 and he says, you're my Snow White and I never want to see you in here ever again. And I said, I can't do that until I find him. And he says, that's going to be a tough road. I said, I'm ready to take it. A week later, since it got word that I wasn't out yet, I had the hit on me, but I wasn't taken out. They send a gang after me, and that kid tried to kill me in the club with a knife. And when he asks me all the questions to figure out if I'm the right girl that he's supposed to have the hit on, he stands up and he says, "Why do pretty girls like you end up in places like this?" I said, "Because I'm a light and I deserve to be here, and I'm going to find out everything I need to find out and find who I'm looking for." He said, "That's still not a good enough answer." And he tries to take out the knife in his hoodie, and you can just see all the managers scatter. Ryan, Blake, like those managers just left the building. And this kid is just trying to pull out this knife out of his hoodie, and you can just hear it ripping. And I said, "You're not going to be able to take that out because you don't know who my God is." And he chased me around the table, and then he chased me around a stage for a moment. There was a piece of carpet that was always at that area that you would trip on if you weren't careful. But fortunately, I did trip on it. I tripped backwards, and it scared him, and he ran off. And they sent an old-timer in. It was in a white shirt, camo pants, and army boots. And the manager, who just came from the bathroom, was like, "I know what you..." He's been in the club for years, and he said, "I know what you stand for. You need to get out of my club." He goes, "No, I'm here for her. That's who I'm here for, Marilyn. Yeah, I like her." I looked at him. I said, "Please, no." And you see the guy walk into the manager's office. He walks out. He doesn't have the money in his hand, and he's watching me as I'm being told to go to the manager's office. And Ryan says, "You need to get out of here. You need to get out of here. You're suspended for 2 weeks." I said, "Why am I suspended?" I said, "Somebody just tried to kill me in your club, and you're suspending me. You're literally giving me to them right now. You can't do this. I need your help. You couldn't buy me," he says. He says, "You need to go." So I grab my friends, and we get in the car. I said, "We honestly need to call an Uber." They're like, "No, we're taking the car." I said, "You better be ready to drive like you've never driven before, because we're about to be followed." He says, "No, we're not. You're tripping." I said, "No, watch." We pulled out and went around to turn around, and you just see 6 cars pulling in, coming in from the outlets, and they're just following us, and they follow us from Denton, halfway to Denton. We couldn't lose them, so I told them to drive back to Dallas. We go to Baby Dolls Dallas, and they don't do anything. They just say, "You're scaring the customers. You need to leave." I said, "No, you don't understand." And we come back to the car. They're still following us. Finally, we end up losing them because I have my friend switch me. And I just didn't care if cops were going to come after me. I kind of needed them to. And I was going 100 miles down 30 mile per hour roads, and no police officers. And if you tried that stuff, you would get caught. You would get caught in the moment that you didn't want to get caught when you need to get caught. Like, that's how that worked in that moment. And we ran inside this house. I said, "You need to go upstairs." I said, "Everything's going to be fine." I said, "We're praying." I said, "We got to pray hard." And my friend's like, "What are we going to do?" I said, "I don't know. We're about to find out." So we get in this house, and you can, from my room at the balcony, there's a window above the door, like an arched window. And you can, if you park your car perfectly, you can see me if I'm walking out of my room. And you just see this big silver Ford truck lifted up, and these 2 Mexicans standing outside cocking guns. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're about to get found out. Like, this is about to go down. And they're knocking on my window, knocking on my door, and you know it's the end of a gun. That's when you know it was the end of a gun. And it was just kind of that moment of you got to put your big girl panties on and realize what you need to do. And hold tight and you can't break down and you don't have time to cry and you may die right now. The rest of your friends in the house may die right now. And it's all because I went to this club. Like, I went to this club and had no idea what I was stepping into. And so we weren't allowed to call the cops in the house. It was the one rule. And if you called the cops, you're getting kicked out. So it was me getting kicked out or my friends dying and me dying. And I would say I value my life. So I just said I don't care anymore, and I called the police. And they masqueraded themselves as our neighbors. So they were hanging outside of my house all day until about 6 p.m. that night. And I stayed in that world for too long to try to find Donnie, who I should have known he skipped states or towns, or I don't know. Maybe karma got him. That would be great. That'd be really great. I remember seeing pictures of his daughters on his Facebook, because that's the only pictures he had on his Facebook for a while. And that's not a real man. That's not a real dad.
Kendee, today, pornography, do you think porn is a problem in our culture?
Yes, 100%. I think it's a disgusting addiction. I can't even stand saying the word. Like, I don't hate a lot of things, but I hate porn. And yet it's one of the easiest ways, I would say, to make a quick couple hundred to send a couple pictures. It's crazy easy.
Are there other worlds that you've been exposed to, such as stripping? Have you come in contact with some trafficking, girls that are trafficking in the stripping environment?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. You work around them all day long. You know who they are. If you don't leave them alone, they come after you, for sure. And it's sad, too, because you can see them whenever they don't make enough money that week, or they don't get enough new clientele, that one of them's going to end up with a broken hand and come back with a broken hand. And it's like, why would you break one of your best dancers' hands? Like, it doesn't make sense. But you would hear them talking in code. If you listen to them enough, you can hear them how they talk in code. And basically it was, she got out of line. She backtalked her guy, and he took a hammer to her hand in front of the rest of the girls. And it cracked her hand in half, practically. So it's so much. It's almost so overwhelming to walk into a club, because being in that world, you can walk in, and it doesn't matter how long you've been gone, you can walk in and literally point out who has a sugar daddy to who has a pimp, to who has just their basic stripping clientele because they're great dancers, to who's just a noob walking around trying to get a couple dances from some girls because his wife hasn't slept with him in a year. And he's not even there to buy sex. He's literally just there for the pleasure of being around another woman who wants to be around him. There's so much of the cliches and the things that you think just happen in the movies. No, they're happening next door.
Strip clubs. We're seeing a lot recently about massage parlors. Mm-hmm. Really posing for sex acts in the back room.
Yeah.
Am I hearing you say that strip clubs are hotbeds for trafficking environment? It's a transactional environment beyond stripping?
Yes, it's no longer, Marilyn Monroe being a dancer and going to entertain like she used to and put on a couple of her numbers. It's not that anymore. It's not that unless you make it that, because you have to understand, each girl makes it how she wants it to be, or how she chooses to be, or how it's created for her. If it's, as far as sex trafficking goes, it's how it's created for her. But majority of those girls are great dancers. They know what they're doing on stage. They literally create choreography to kind of mask what they're doing. But they always hang out together. And they will always work together because they can't trust anybody else. There's nobody else that you're allowed to trust except your folks. And it has become just a hot spot of, hey, if I want a girl, I can go give her a couple grand and get her home. That's it. And honestly, it's kind of a place that has turned into a place of getting long-term clientele for the pimps to have around when he needs to recycle his girls because they're too old, or, one of them got an STD for a while and can't have sex for too long. And not that a majority of them even care. They just tell them to put a condom on it. And you just kind of see it. That's a really big reason why it's not easy for a happy girl to be in a strip club. And I'm a really happy person. And those girls aren't happy. That's their territory. It's the only thing they own in their lives, except for their Gucci's that they're promised and their Fendi's. And it's publicized in the social media, and we all feed into it with our Cardi B's and our Nicki Minaj's, and it's disgusting, but it's almost praised to have that lifestyle of a stripper and a dancer or a prostitute or whatever. And it's just kind of, it almost blows your mind, because it's like, really, this is what you've tried to put down so none of us can get up in a better, more positive environment. This is what society's decided to do, is put that down as something that is so great and making us so much money. And yet we want to come back and say that we have all these problems with sex trafficking and everything else, but we're more than happy to buy a new Cardi B song. We're more than happy to go out and praise all these people who came from that background, and yet we're going to say we have a problem with it. Does that make us the hypocrites too? Yeah, it's a great song. Thanks. Appreciate it. Way to make yours so pretty and put some makeup on it. Looks real good. Take that makeup off and that's an ugly story. And it stinks, but you put a smile on it.
Is there force and manipulation in that environment, in the strip club?
Oh, absolutely. Even whenever they're trying to just pick you up. It starts out with the, hey baby, you know what you would look good in right now, or you know what trip I could take you on and make everything worth your while. And if it's, yeah, I can take me on this trip and I can put myself in these clothes and I don't need your help, but have a good day. What'd you just say to me? What do you mean? You think you're so good with your white skin and your blue eyes and your blonde hair? You need somebody like me. You're disgusting. I can put you in better lingerie than what you're wearing. I can put you in better shoes than what you have on right now. You don't need me? You should look at yourself. Oh yeah, it gets so forced. It gets to petty forced. Just pettiness. And you can even see it. You can see a guy sitting in the back of a booth. And he'll sit in the back of the booth and he'll have one or two of his girls come over because they're about to need to go work a couple guys that are probably across the strip club. But they can't make it look obvious that it's already planned. So they're sitting there on their phones and you can just see him go, you're up. Your turn. And if that girl doesn't work and she doesn't get any, enough, usually their number was 1,500 or more. Those girls weren't allowed to make less than 1,500 a night. If they did, they were in trouble. Unless it was a bad night.
What would trouble cost? What would happen?
I remember seeing this, and that's another thing, is they also change cities so that way you can never really figure out who's with who unless they find a really good, a really great club that's big enough that they can hide. So Baby Dolls Fort Worth, I saw this one girl and I remember her having braces and about to have beautiful teeth, and she gave me a load of attitude just because we were supposed to be there we were supposed to be there, like, dancing for this after party. And she ends up taking one of the guys upstairs and sleeping with them. Well, I see her in Dallas, like, a few months later. She's got a chipped tooth. And, of course, she has some crazy story for it. But you can just see she's lying about it. Like, you get beat up. You have to take on more customers than you've ever wanted to in one night of having to make the money that you better make that day. And you don't get a choice in doing it. Those girls don't get a choice. There's no choice. You don't get to just get up and go to Walmart and have your day. You get to talk to your family so your family doesn't freak out and find out what's going on or call the cops. And those girls have it it's so brainwashed in their mind of what they're doing is just getting them up to their own corporations and their own industries. And being an outsider looking in, you're like, yeah. It's like, no, you're not getting anywhere here. You are the only corporation that you're building, like your body. And they think they're told they're gonna have all these businesses and all these places to go and they're gonna own all these things. It's like, the only thing you get to own is that Fendi backpack you're wearing. And he's gonna give you more so you're happier. Like, that's all that really goes on. Or you get to go on trips. Why do you get to go on that trip? Because some CEO of a Fortune 500 company just paid for a private airplane for all of you to get taken out to the Bahamas, and they get to do it. They get to do what they want with you. That's why you get to go on that trip, and your Instagram looks so great. Yeah.
How's your sister?
How is she? She's great.
Not dancing anymore?
No, definitely not. Last, I thought she was getting into, like, criminal investigation stuff because she couldn't stand how her investigator did on her case. She has a baby because she possibly got pregnant by her rapist, and it really did some psychological stuff to her. But on the happy end, she was like, I'm going to have a baby. And I was just like, okay, cool. Well, I kind of said a prayer about that when she got to my house and told me that. And I never told her that prayer because I was so scared. But I literally ran into my room and I prayed. I said, God, if that is the child of the monster that could do such a thing to that beautiful soul, please take it home because I won't love it. I'll know, and I won't love it. 3 hours later, she had a miscarriage in my guest bathroom. I've had friends say, I'm not going to make you mad. Please don't pray. I'm like, maybe it just happened to happen. And it really did something to her because, like I said, she always knew she was going to be a mommy. And so she got pregnant like within 8 months later, and she has a beautiful little boy named Leviticus. He's the most beautiful half black, half white baby you've ever seen in your life with the biggest eyes. And she's going to school and she works at Breadwinners and she's just kind of doing her thing.
Do you mind telling me your name and your last name again?
My name is Kendee Long.
And tell me real quick, Kendee, a nonprofit you want to start?
Can you
tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the idea. So I have this really beautiful idea that came to me because I really prayed to God. I said, I know there's a lot of people that I can help, but I need the name. I need a name for this nonprofit organization, and it's called #FreeLove, FR33LOV3. And it's to live your life in threes. Whenever we start anything new, we look at it as so overwhelming and we can procrastinate on it, but if you just take the first 3 hours in doing it, you can take the next set of 3 hours. Eventually, so many 3 hours turns into 3 days, and it's not such a big deal anymore. And then if you multiply that by 7 days, which is the only amount of days that any successful person gets in a week, turns into 21. And in 21 days, you can make or break any good or bad habit, and eventually it turns into 3 months. And in 3 months, you can make a new line and continue to write your story. And the whole idea for the nonprofit organization is to really get into middle schools, because it doesn't just start in middle schools. My little sister taught me what a vagina was when she was 5, okay? I'm 5 years older than her. I did not know. So this stuff starts young. Your kids hear a lot of things, and for you to think, oh, my kid's not going to understand that, no, you just stunted them in not understanding what you think they don't understand, and they're talking about it with their friends. So it needs to start in middle schools, and it's to figure out their generational curses, and I plan on putting together a quiz, almost a personality quiz, a mental quiz of some sort. Just a few questions here and there that'll tell what someone's generational curse is and how to break it. And then as they graduate within the program and learning that public school is not a real life, and one day it's going to end and you're going to wake up and you don't have to go to school anymore and you have to make your own decisions, those decisions get scatterbrained and people start making any kind of decisions they can to just survive, and they'll do anything to survive. So why not help kids become little business owners? Why not find a way of being like the Tony Robbins of kids? That's what was thrown on me. I love them. Do I want them? I don't know. But I have a lot of love to show to a bunch of other kids, and I have a lot of direction that I really feel like can be just put into them and poured into them, and help them get over the little kid stuff, that really feels like they are holding back from, whether it's their parents' divorce or mom didn't give them enough attention or whatever, and then harness that into their greatest strengths and their gifts. And let them know their weaknesses. We all know our weaknesses, but it's really letting them know, and them knowing and having self-awareness of that. And just letting them know the truth that this world doesn't have to be an ugly place. It can be, and it's mean, and it's hard. But there's ways of putting a little magic with it. You get to make it your own. So I have a lot of directions with where I want to go about it, but in the end, it's going to be just a greater generation of kids that know exactly what they want to do, and the stripping rate go down just a little bit is what I could put down, and the prostitution rate go down just a little bit, and kids getting into trouble with drugs and going to jail for drugs go down just a little bit, then I've done something. That's the goal. That's what he wants me to do. I have to do it.